former royal maid recently gave an eye-opening interview, revealing shocking revelations regarding Prince Andrew's private life. The former employee didn't hold back regarding the unique demands of royal duty or the rumors of scandals that clouded his reputation. What startling facts did she reveal? And how do these fresh revelations affect how we view the Duke of York? Join us as we delve into the little-known aspects of Prince Andrew's life and the discoveries that have made headlines. Andrew has always been the Queen's favorite child. Prince Andrew was reportedly the Queen's favorite child for much of his life, which may seem unbelievable now. Assuming that someone in Elizabeth II's position would indulge in favoritism may seem unreasonable. If she did, you may also think Prince Charles, the heir apparent, would win the part. However, according to sources, the Queen has always slightly preferred Andrew. That has to do with the fact that she had more time to become a mother after giving birth to him. However, because his mother was too preoccupied with other responsibilities, Charles was primarily reared by nannies. This implied that Andrew's upbringing was likely superior to his older brothers. According to reports, the prince was very obstinate, impolite, and a violent youngster. Unfortunately, Andrew seems to get away with more than anybody else in the family since the Queen adores him. According to Nigel Cawthorne's biography, Prince Andrew, the end of the monarchy, and Epstein, the young Andrew, was indulged at every turn, and staff members reportedly found him to be a handful. The prince's nanny reportedly called the child Baby Grumpling due to his tendency towards stubbornness and anger. Rumor has it that he never shied away from a tantrum. The book claims that even the boy's parents occasionally criticized his actions. When Andrew allegedly commented about the common people on a television program he watched with his family, Cawthorne wrote about it. This comment supposedly drew harsh criticism from Philip. Andrew's issues reportedly extended to the various schools he attended. It appears that Andrew was also occasionally a threat outside of the house. According to Nigel, the prince immediately established a reputation as a bully when he started prep school at 8. It seems his classmates weren't the only ones who didn't have a strong affection for the young prince. Additionally, Cawthorne claimed that the teachers didn't feel sorry for Andrew and weren't sad to see him go. Similar problems arose while at Gordonston boarding school, where he was accused of being boastful and enjoying cracking crude jokes. He reportedly became known as the sniggerer as a result, and to make matters worse, the prince wasn't the most intelligent student there. He treated many palace employees rudely and only charmed one type of individual. According to reports, Andrew's actions weren't very royal. He was still a youngster, though, and there were all the indications that he would grow up. Regretfully, this was not the case. According to reports, the prince continued to be a bother as he grew older, and many royal staff members were not impressed. According to reports, Cawthorne was told by former bodyguard Ken Wharf that Andrew's manners are just awful. Another person described Andrew as incredibly rude and asserted that he was exclusively attracted to blonde women with large chests. According to reports, the prince would use language inappropriate for the monarchy when he threw objects on the ground and demanded that people clean them up. It appears that being employed by this prince was hardly a dream position. Because of her part in Emily, his friendship with withcous Stark became notorious. In his early days, Andrew appeared to know how to impress women. Even while not all of his relationships brought him a lot of good press, he had little trouble finding a partner. His relationship with actress withcous Stark is an excellent illustration of this. According to reports, he and the woman hit it off right away after meeting on a blind date in 1981. However, when rumors of one of withcous' previous jobs gained widespread notice the following year, catastrophe struck. Stark appeared in the 1976 historical drama film Emily when she was seen kissing another woman while wearing her birthday suit. This caused instant controversy as the paparazzi relentlessly pursued the two until they parted ways. He attacked journalists with a paint sprayer while in Southern California. Members of the royal family have to become used to dealing with journalists. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have recently fought back because it's not always easy. Nonetheless, the monarchy and the media worked to foster a mutually beneficial partnership. Unfortunately, when someone goes rogue and retaliates, like Andrew did in the mid-1980s, it can be challenging to do that. The prince found a paint sprayer in Southern California and used it against the reporters covering his trip. According to reports, one of the participants was more offended by Andrew's joy at what he had done than by the deed itself. In the end, the prince was forced to pay for the damages. Due to other obligations, Andrew only saw his wife 40 days a year. While Andrew and Sarah Ferguson's love may not have been destined for marriage, his passion with Withcous Stark was. In 1986, the couple exchanged vows in front of 500 million spectators. Their love was well-liked, but it wouldn't last forever. 2 weeks after the wedding, Andrew had to return to serving in the British Navy, so things started poorly. The couple didn't spend much time together during their marriage because of his dedication to the military. Harper's Bazaar claims that they spent about 40 days a year together. Perhaps it's hardly surprising that everything fell apart so fast. He was absent for her first pregnancy, and Sarah was told to get a grip. Sarah seemed unhappy about the limited time she spent with her spouse. She knew he had obligations, but if he would never be around, what good was it to marry her? After Ferguson became pregnant with Princess Beatrice, things took a dramatic turn because Andrew was purportedly missing until the baby was born. Without her spouse by her side, Sarah had to endure the trying months of pregnancy. The prince returned for 10 days after Beatrice arrived and then departed once more. Harper's Bazaar revealed what transpired after his wife broke down in tears as he left. Sarah reportedly felt more alone than ever after being encouraged to grow up and get a grip by the staff at Buckingham Palace. After Sarah gave the singer some attention, Andrew and Meatloaf fought. Given Sarah's little time with Andrew, seeing her as a woman needing love might not be difficult. She might have been open to solace in the arms of anyone good to her, even the late musician Meatloaf. Ferguson reportedly gave the rock legend considerable thought, even though the two never had a romantic relationship. She wasn't flirting, he told The Guardian, but her actions were enough to annoy her spouse. Meatloaf thought the prince approached the man and attempted to shove him aside because he was jealous. He tried to reciprocate, which led to a fight in which Andrew allegedly said, "You can't touch me, I'm royal." Luckily, the disturbance did not injure either party. After pictures of Sarah with another man appeared in the media, he and Sarah divorced. Since Andrew was rarely present, Sarah felt she had had enough. She revealed in My Story that, while not intending to file for divorce, she decided to split from her spouse in 1992. She didn't want their marriage to be ruined by a single difficult moment. However, Sarah was unable to handle the current situation. Unfortunately, after shocking images of the Duchess surfaced in the Daily Mirror, divorce became necessary. They depicted Sarah and millionaire John Bryan in a risky situation where the man was sucking on her toes. Ferguson and her husband suffered a tremendous deal of embarrassment as a result of the incident, which led to their 1996 divorce. Over the past few decades, she and Andrew have maintained their friendship despite the scandal. According to reports, factors other than Sarah's toe-sucking incident impacted the divorce. The drama with Bryan has made the divorce unavoidable. That does not imply, however, that Sarah voluntarily participated in the formal separation. Her desire to work was one of the factors that contributed to the divorce. Sarah aspired to establish a career and become well-known, which was considered unsuitable for a royal family member. Therefore, she could begin working after her divorce without further embarrassing the family. Although it could have been better, it seemed the proper decision considering Sarah and Andrew's reputation had already suffered badly. Could the prince begin to repair his public relations now that she's no longer involved? Then again, he allegedly shouted at a maid because she failed to close the curtains thoroughly. Now that Sarah was gone, Andrew was more dependent than ever on his crew. Unfortunately, it was said that his behavior did not alter after he joined the Navy and started dating Sarah. His former maid, Charlotte Briggs, told The Sun about her experience working for the guy following the divorce. Her claims that the prince became quite hostile over a pair of curtains are among the anecdotes that don't speak well of him. According to reports, he asked her to close them, but she unintentionally left a space due to their weight. Briggs was reportedly moved to tears by the yelling after Andrew realized the error. The maid allegedly decided to hide from the prince whenever he was present since she didn't want to cope with him after this reaction. Andrew also gets unhappy if his stuffed toy collection isn't perfectly arranged. The prince is reportedly irritated by more than just the slightly open curtains. He also seems to lose his temper if his collection of plush animals needs to be organized. The New York Post claims that he owns 72 teddy bears, all of which must be put in a certain way, with the largest at the back and the tiniest at the front. Andrew has laminated instructions that the maids must strictly adhere to because he seems insistent about everything being in its proper place. According to reports, they provide instructions on handling the stuffed animals during washing and how to put them away afterward. Briggs remembered being trained on this for a day, which she found peculiar. He stubbornly refused to move his belongings to the wrong bathroom. Other maids besides Charlotte have had negative interactions with the prince. Jeanette McGowan is another person who's had cause to doubt Andrew's actions in the past. He put his toiletry bag in the wrong bathroom in the late 1990s, this episode that most frequently comes to her mind. After learning that Charles owned the bathroom, Andrew became belligerent and refused to transfer his items. The Daily Mail claims Andrew didn't follow instructions until the Queen stepped in. Charles undoubtedly behaved like a grown-up in the circumstance, according to Jeanette, who described the event as a bizarre standoff. Furthermore, there weren't any differences between the restrooms. Andrew has a habit of wooing women by letting them sit on the Queen's throne. The royal throne symbolizes the Queen's authority within the monarchy. The Daily Beast claims it's also a way to assist Andrew in finding a girlfriend. To impress them, the prince is said to have a habit of seating his potential conquests on the throne. According to a source, he does it for everyone he wants to win over, including former supermodel Caprice Barrett. She told The Sun that Andrew had taken her to Buckingham Palace multiple times and that on one of those occasions, the prince had let her sit on the throne. This occurred in the year 2000, a few years after he and Sarah had separated, even though she and Andrew never developed a connection. Caprice was reportedly thoroughly entertained. He gained the nickname Air Miles Andy because of his frequent use of air travel. Andrew seemed to get away with a lot when he was younger because he was well-liked by many people, but his reputation has been different since the divorce. The increased media coverage of his dubious actions, such as his penchant for extravagant spending, hasn't helped either. According to reports, the prince is fearless in spending his money, particularly on travel. Andrew's penchant for flying everywhere, even when it's not essential, earned him the moniker Air Miles Andy in the media. For example, he allegedly requested a helicopter to transport him to Oxford. On other occasions, Andrew depended on RAF aircraft to transport him to Scotland and Northern Ireland to play golf. His frequent flying has racked up quite the bill over the years. The expense of some of Andrew's travels is enough to make many UK taxpayers furious. His flights cost a total of £325,000, it's about $435,000 American dollars, in 2003 alone. 5 years later, he paid $177,000 to take a private plane to the United States, a decision naturally met with harsh criticism. The prince has a long-standing passion for flying, as evidenced by his numerous air miles in 2014. Andrew made the equivalent of 3 round-the-world trips. This is true even if he's no longer the British government's ambassador for international trade. It appears like Andrew can't help but board a plane, and he doesn't seem to care whose funds he must take. Sarah caused a scandal when she tried to use her connection to Andrew for monetary gain. Even though Sarah wasn't Andrew's wife after 1996, she was still critical of him. Unfortunately, the prince's association with her resulted in another scandal in 2010, so it backfired. Ferguson reportedly promised someone that she would put him in touch with Andrew for a high fee since she desperately needed money. The contract was precious because the prince was the international trade envoy at the time. Sarah was unaware, though, that the man she was speaking with was an undercover journalist. The Duchess was forced to apologize for the scandal after he revealed the recording of their chat. Sarah insisted that her ex had nothing to do with it. Andrew has invited dubious people to some of his daughter's birthday celebrations. You may anticipate that many attendees at any event hosted by members of the royal family will be well-known figures. Regretfully, that's only sometimes advantageous. It appears that some of Andrew's guests have been quite dubious, especially when it comes to his kids' birthday celebrations. For example, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the disgraced co-founder of Miramax were among the visitors of Beatrice's 18th birthday. All of them have been arrested for inappropriate behavior since the 2006 incident, and they've all received substantial prison sentences for their offenses. Several years later, Trek Kachuni appeared as another contentious party guest. According to reports, Andrew accepted the princess's present from the weapon smuggler. He was accused of using an offensive word back in 2012 while talking to a political aide. Using the incorrect word can significantly affect your reputation as a public figure. People must be cautious about what they say since some terms once thought acceptable are now frowned upon. Andrew learned about this when someone accused him of using a derogatory epithet in a conversation with a political aide. Reports of the incident didn't surface until 2019. However, it was said to have happened in 2012 when the prince allegedly used an extremely antiquated term. It was reportedly directed at Rohan Silva. Andrew seems to have escaped any repercussions, and Buckingham Palace has denied it even occurred, but that's most likely because he was dealing with more severe charges. In 2016, the prince crashed through a pair of gates, causing severe damage. It may have taken years of accusations regarding Andrew's use of derogatory language to surface, but the same cannot be said for an incident in 2016. This time, the prince demolished Windsor Great Park's gates after they refused to open for him. It appeared that the sensor that detects the presence of a car was malfunctioning. Andrew chose to push his way through the fence, even though he could have traveled a further mile to avoid it. The move caused great uproar among the British public and damaged his automobile and the gates. People said that any average person in his circumstances would face criminal charges for irresponsible driving and criminal damage. Andrew made fun of Harry and Meghan before Eugenie's special day. Andrew and his daughters have much power that ordinary citizens do not because they're members of the royal family. The prince's side of the family is frequently disregarded in favor of Charles because he's not the eldest of the Queen's children. According to reports, this has strained relations with Andrew, which may be why he seemed to make a disparaging comment about Harry and Meghan's wedding before Eugenie's nuptials. He said her ceremony would be the same since more people would be there. He remarked, "They need a church of that size to accommodate all their friends." Online users interpreted that as Andrew implying that his wife and nephew aren't well liked. He's had some questionable alleged friendships over the years. Of course, the quality of your friendships matters more than their number. Having hundreds of people around you is pointless if they only support you in times of need. Unfortunately, when it comes to friendships, Andrew hasn't always had the finest record. He's said to have previously been involved in some dubious associations, such as one with a former Libyan dictator. According to reports, he met with the individual in 2008 and presented a lecture for his Africa investment portfolio at St. James Palace. This was just a couple of years before rebel militants killed him in 2011. David Rowland, a British financier who gained notoriety as a tax exile, is the subject of another purported friendship. His friendship with Jeffrey Epstein damaged his reputation significantly. Andrew's reputation has undoubtedly suffered due to his past interactions with dubious persons. However, his association with Jeffrey Epstein has damaged his reputation more than any other. After being imprisoned for trafficking and assaulting women, the man allegedly committed suicide in 2019. Although he had previously been arrested in the 2000s, it was unclear how serious his offenses were at the time. After a thorough investigation revealed what he had done, inquiries concerning Epstein's associates started to surface. Having been friends with the financier since before his initial arrest, Andrew became one of them. Some individuals immediately began to question whether the prince was aware of Epstein's conduct or if he had any involvement in them. 3 times a woman came forward to accuse Andrew of misbehaving toward her. It didn't take long for those questioning Andrew's innocence to have grounds to do so. Virginia Guffey came forward in October 2019 to accuse the prince of inappropriate behavior. She said Andrew had had 3 personal encounters with her, the first purportedly in London in 2001. According to reports, Ghislaine Maxwell instructed Virginia, then 17, to perform what she had done for Jeffrey to Andrew. Therefore, she goes to a nightclub with Andrew and his pals, which leads to her intimacy with the prince. Epstein was allegedly coerced into doing what Andrew wanted by threats and fear in the other assault events, which reportedly took place in New York and on her island. Andrew strongly refuted the charges and asserted that there was no reliable evidence. Andrew refuted everything Virginia stated about him, as one could anticipate. He wouldn't acknowledge it, even if it were true, because it was a severe charge. Regretfully, claiming his innocence was insufficient to dispel the controversy because he was a member of the royal family. Many were reluctant to trust him over Guffey because of his contentious past, particularly in light of the Me Too movement. To defend himself, the prince claimed that he had never met Virginia. He attempted to argue that the photo, which showed the two of them together, could have been altered. In the end, Andrew gave an interview to clear his name, but this didn't help him. The interview was designed to clear his name, but it only worsened Andrew's situation. Scandals are rarely acknowledged in public by the royal family, but this time they were unable to keep quiet. In November 2019, Andrew was granted permission to participate in an interview with BBC Newsnight. Unfortunately, many viewers were not persuaded of his innocence by what he said. The prince stated in the interview that he was at Pizza Express with his family on the first night, which prevented him from attacking Virginia. The claim that Andrew couldn't perspire because he had too much adrenaline during the Falklands War was another justification. He continued by saying that he didn't regret being friends with Epstein and that he never specifically showed sorrow for the financier's victims, as if that wasn't enough. Some later referred to the interview as a car crash. He stepped back from royal duties after the interview. Thanks to the BBC interview, Andrew would never have been able to escape these accusations undamaged. Shortly after the notorious interview, it was revealed that the prince would leave his royal position. He stated that he unequivocally regrets his affiliation with Epstein and hoped his break would be sufficient to prevent more embarrassment for the king. Andrew noted that he would take a break for the foreseeable future, most likely to come back after the scandal had passed. This would only go away for a few months, too. Andrew's accusations of abuse remained prominent in the public consciousness, despite the turbulence surrounding Meghan and Harry's departure a few months later. The prince's situation then deteriorated even further. The FBI claimed that Andrew wasn't cooperating with their Epstein investigation. For many, 2020 was a challenging year. However, in addition to his health concerns, Andrew had another issue. He was not contributing as much to the Epstein probe as the FBI had hoped. That's what the Times says anyway. The FBI had been trying to contact him since the prince's car crash interview. However, U.S. prosecutor Jeffrey Berman said Andrew had zero cooperation during that period. This was quickly refuted by the prince's staff, who said that nothing could be further from the truth. They said that Andrew had yet to be contacted by the FBI, so he couldn't assist them. However, not everyone accepted this account of what happened. Andrew and Sarah were sued after failing to pay for a ski chalet they purchased in 2014. To make matters worse, the prince was sued by Isabel de Rouve, who said that he and Sarah owed her £6.7 million, or around $9 million. According to reports, the loan was associated with the couple's Swiss ski chalet, which they purportedly purchased from Ruve in 2014. Most of the expenses were allegedly covered by a mortgage, with the remaining balance to be paid in cash. Sarah and Andrew were supposed to contribute half, but neither provided the funds. Eventually, they were able to work out an agreement with Isabel that let them postpone the payment for 5 years. However, the French socialite filed the lawsuit when they still hadn't coughed up. Virginia sued the prince for assault and violence in August of 2021. Luckily for them, the problem with the ski chalet has been fixed. According to reports, Ruve retracted her case in December 2021 and informed Mail Online that the debt had been settled. The two were selling the chalet to pay off their debt and provide Andrew additional cash so he could pay for his second litigation. Yes, Virginia was the one who chose to sue the prince before the Isabel dispute was resolved. She accused the man of assault and violence when she was 17 and filed a civil lawsuit against him in New York in August 2021. Usually, this would only be feasible if her case's statute of limitations had passed. However, she was able to bring the claim because of the state's Child Victims Act. After reviewing the situation, the Met decided not to pursue Andrew further. Following the interview in November 2019, Andrew hoped Virginia's accusations would be dropped, but there was no way they were going anywhere now that she was bringing a lawsuit. It appeared as though the prince was headed straight towards disaster. He did, however, experience a positive outcome once the Met announced that they would not be prosecuting him. In response to Guffrey's charge, the Metropolitan Police reviewed Andrew, but in October 2021, they revealed that they already knew everything there was to know about the prince and had no desire to learn more. Andrew has consistently maintained his innocence, so someone purportedly close to him informed PA Media that the Met's decision was not shocking. At the beginning of 2022, he lost his military affiliations and royal patronages. Even though the Metropolitan Police stopped investigating Andrew, the prince was still under suspicion. The man's reputation has suffered more setbacks since Virginia launched her case. He'll no longer be called His Royal Highness, an honor Harry lost as he resigned from the monarchy, according to a statement released by Buckingham Palace at the beginning of 2022. He will also no longer have military affiliations and royal patronages. Additionally, according to the palace, Andrew would be defending this case as a private citizen, which means that his status as a member of the royal family will not help him refute the accusations. The monarchs most likely wish to distance themselves from the prince in light of everything that's transpired in recent years. Early in 2022, Andrew closed and privatized a few of his social media accounts. Seldom do members of the royal family spend their days browsing social media. Nonetheless, many monarchs are on these platforms and use them to garner public support. Most of them do, anyway. Since one of Andrew's profiles was deactivated a few days after losing his title, he appears to be stepping away from social media. Another's been locked, which prevents anyone from viewing it unless they've been accepted as a follower. It's probably understandable why Andrew would want to avoid what others say about him online in light of all that's happening. However, deleting and privatizing many accounts is not suitable, so some question whether these activities have any meaning. Andrew asked to dismiss the lawsuit, but the judge rejected his request. Things aren't looking good for Andrew more than 2 years after the accusations were made against him. A judge rejecting the prince's request to overturn the lawsuit was another problem that arose at the beginning of 2022. Because Guffrey allegedly agreed in 2009 not to sue anyone else, his team felt the matter should be dismissed. However, that arrangement did not include Andrew's name. Furthermore, the judge disagrees with the prince's attorney's assertion that the accusations lack credibility. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon